want to open up first by giving all praise to the Most High Yahawashi Mashayach. In the words of Dr. A. Neubauer, okay, now we need to discuss this European man. I researched him, and this is what I found out. Because they're trying to, just like they have when we were in slavery, they made it so we could not read or write, and then they taught us the Bible. Now they're trying to tell us who the people are. Okay, the heathen Gentiles trying to say that they're the people and that we're not the people. Okay, and here's what it says about this Dr. A. Neubauer. It says, a European, okay, his name is Adolf, and interestingly enough, Adolf is supposed to be the English way or German way of saying Abraham. Interesting, okay? Adolf Hitler, Abraham Hitler. Interesting. You think about that, okay? Adolf, quote, Abraham Neubauer, he lived from 1832 to 1907, received a traditional rabbinic education in Slovakia, and these are European nation, and studied Oriental or Western languages. Oriental just means Western. Eastern languages at the universities of Prague and Munich. That's in Germany. He spent most of his career as the specialist in Hebrew at the Bodleian Library and a reader in Rabbinic Hebrew in the University of Oxford, and he published widely and innovatively in Jewish studies. You see, you got to make up this history. So, okay, you got to make it up. That's what they've been doing. He is particularly well known for his catalog of the Hebrew manuscripts in the Bodleian Library and for his volumes on the Jewish exegesis, explanation of Isaiah chapter 53. The geography of the Talmud, which is the writing of the oral traditions under the Jewish, the converts, all right, that's what it actually is, and the Ben Sira text from the Cairo Geniza. Okay, this Adolf Neubauer died on April 6, 1907. Now, here goes in the article. He wrote, quote, the captives of Israel exiled beyond the Euphrates did not return as a whole to Palestine along with their brethren, the captives of Judah. At least there is no mention made of this event in the documents at our disposal. And all the documents will not be at their disposal, but let's understand this. The question is, who over these thousands of years were keeping tabs on the Israelites dispersed throughout the world? You got who's doing that? There is a portion of the Edomites that was doing that. This is the reason why you have these secret societies today, because these Edomites are holding on to certain bits of information. All right. So it goes on to read. In fact, the return of the 10 tribes was one of the great promises of the prophets, and the advent of the Messiah, the anointed, is therefore necessarily identified with the epic of their redemption. Correct. Of their redemption. Not, see, he didn't say our redemption, of their, and he might be implying it, but the fact is he's really talking about, and it's interesting that these Freudian things are in there. Okay. Neubauer appropriately headed his article, quote, where are the 10 tribes, and stated that the traditional Jewish belief, see that this their interjection again, that they exist somewhere unknown, although he himself did not accept this view. He cited the Apocrypha, the New Testament, and the Talmud and other writings to prove that, quote, the hope of the return of the 10 tribes has never ceased amongst the Jews in exile. Of the Israelites in exile is what it is. All right. This hope has been connected with every messianic rising. Now, interestingly, this is an interesting point because it goes to the understanding of the New Testament, where Paul is going to those different missionary journeys, and they are actually Israelites, but you have these Christians claiming that they're Gentiles. It's just not true, because when you correlate every letter of Paul to the book of Acts, when you precept it to Acts, what you'll see is every single time in Acts where you see Paul going those places, he's talking to Jews every single time. All right. He's also using, in all the letters of Paul, he uses the word brethren. Brethren is not the loose word that we use today, like you have in the military. Everybody's your brother and sister. That's not how it is biblically speaking. The word brethren means having the same father. All right. Brethren in the Bible, in the New Testament, means those children have the same father. Okay. That's what it means. So they're related by blood. All right. By lineage, not by pedigree, not by I'm changing my name to this. I'm now this people, like these Jewish people are doing. That's not how it works. Okay, back to the book. In the English translation of Professor H. Gratz's History of the Jews, Jewish opinion, okay, these Gentile opinions concerning the completeness with which the 10 tribes vanished from kin is expressed. Okay, and there's a note before I read this, and that is Henrik Gratz was a German exegete and one of the first historians to write a comprehensive history of the Jewish people from a Jewish perspective. You see, they're creating their history. All right, they're creating the history, something they can go back and say, well, this is what we wrote. Right? That's what they're doing. You don't have to do that with the scriptures because it goes back 3,000-4,000 years. Theirs only goes back hundreds of years. Okay, it reads, quote, the idols of Dan and Samaria and of the other cities were taken to Nineveh. You see, this is going to prove a point. Okay, let's finish reading this. The idols of Dan and Samaria and other cities were taken to Nineveh, and the thousands of captives were scattered and settled in groups in thinly populated districts, the location of which is not definitely known. And Halah and Habor on the river Gozan, in the mountain of Media, and in Elam west of Persia. The house of Yisrael that had endured for 260 years under the rule of 20 kings, vanished in one day, leaving no trace behind it, because it forsook its original elevating and invigorating teachings, meaning the law, statutes, and commandments, and followed the enervating vices connected with idolatry from, guess who? Learned from the Gentiles and heathen. He won't say that, but the idolatry was learned from the Gentiles and the heathen. What became of the 10 tribes? Some believed they discovered them in the Far East, some in the Far West, some even in America, as a matter of fact, and Native Americans. They were deceivers and visionaries who claimed to be descendants of the lost tribes. Undoubtedly, the 10 tribes were absorbed among the nations and disappeared. Some of them, husbandmen, vintagers, and shepherds, were allowed to remain in the land, and some of the nobles who lived on the border of Yehuda probably sought safety in that country. Okay, a concise statement of the official attitude of, quote, Orthodox Jewry, okay, Orthodox Jewry, all right, these of the heathen and Gentiles on the question of the 10 tribes is to be found in the answer of the late chief rabbi, and again, we don't call it, Mashayach Yahawashi, say we no longer call anybody father, a doctor, or rabbi. Okay, Hertz, and Hertz is his full name is Joseph Herman Hertz. Okay, it says Joseph Herman Hertz was the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom in 1913 until his death in 1946. He was the editor of the Hertz Chumash, the first English language translation of the first 5 books of Moses. That's what they say. With associated Hatharoth and commentary. Hertz was born on September 25th, 1872 in Lublin, in what is now Slovakia. His family moved to America around 1883. He grew up on the Lower East Side of New York speaking Yiddish. All right, to the following questions, it reads in the book, to the following questions asked by the late Captain Merton Smith in 1918. We're going to talk about old Merton Smith too. Okay, we're going to see who he is too. I think he was hard to find information on him. Okay, so he wrote them asking these questions. Number one, are the people known as the Jews throughout the world the descendants of Yehuda and Levi? You see this, how this thing came to be. Or is there a known admixture of other tribes? Two, if so, what proportion or what authority is there for saying so, which they would have none? Number three, if not, what has become of the other tribes, and where, according to your knowledge, are they? And they don't have the knowledge of that. We don't have complete understanding that. We know they're scattered around the world. That's it. That's all we have. Four, if that is unknown, where were they when Yehuda last knew of them? Does the Orthodox Yehudism, which is that Judaism, all right, and ism also means something that is bad, by the way. Ism, like racism, it means something bad. And so that's exactly what Judaism is. It's bad. Okay, still look for the recovery of the 12 tribes at some future date. Absolutely, that is the prophecy. Okay, the chief rabbi's answer to these questions can be seen in the accompanying reduced facsimile of his letter. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the page after that. Then we're going to come back to that letter. All right. So the chief rabbi's answer to the questions is to be seen in the accompanying reduced facsimile of the letter. So this is what the letter says. To these expressions might be added the view of the late Dean Inge, who said, quote, the Assyrians deported most of the 10 tribes in 720 BC. Approximately 720 BC. They never returned, and foreigners from the east were brought in to replace them. This is all true. The Babylonians deported only the upper and middle classes, leaving mainly the Canaanite fellahin. Now, this is interesting. Fellahin, you gotta look the word up. It means an Egyptian peasant on the land. So fellahin means an Egyptian peasant, or you can take out the Egyptian and say peasant. But it's heathens, okay? They brought heathens into the land. And Canaanites were heathen as well. They were non-Israelites. A non-Israelite is a heathen. A non-Israelite is a Gentile. Goes on to read. A Jewish encyclopedia, the Jewish encyclopedia states the question rather nicely. As a large number of prophecies relate to the return of, quote, Yisrael, which is true, to the Holy Land, believers in the literal inspiration of the scriptures have always labored under a difficulty in regard to the continued existence of the tribes of Israel. Talking about the 10 tribes, what he's referring to when he says that. With the exception of those of Yehuda and Levi or Benjamin, because those are 3 tribes of the southern kingdom, which returned with Ezra and Nehemiah. If the 10 tribes had disappeared, the literal fulfillment of the prophecies would be, we have to go down to the last page, would be impossible. If they have not disappeared, obviously they must exist under a different name, which is just like we do. We call Negroes and Spics and Tontos and spear chuckers and niggers and African American, Afro-American, American descendants of slaves, foundational Black Americans. They just got all kinds of stuff for us. Okay. Yes, we will call different, not just a different name, but different names, plural. Okay, the numerous attempts at identification that have been made constitute some of the most remarkable curiosities in literature. You know why? Because they only look for Europeans. This is the only thing they're focusing on. And this is why it's going to be very disturbing to them to find out who Mashayach Yahawashi actually is and what he looks like, and who the true people of the Lord actually are and look like. Now, one note before we go to the next paragraph. The last people that these Europeans would ever consider being the Jews, the children of Israel, are the so-called Black Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, and in fact, especially any melanated persons in the world. Nobody with skin color. They looking for pale people and pale people only. And the Lord says that his people shall not wax pale. All right, they will not grow pale. Okay, Europeans are only looking for those that look like them. And some of the Israelites do look like them. okay? Because we mingled into all these nations. We look like the Arabs, the Asians, and the Africans as well, okay? Although those Europeans in the highest positions of their current evil world do know the truth, the least of their people may not know, accept, or admit the truth. Although some people are seeing the truth. They're seeing it for what it is. So back to the book. Those who have read anything of the medieval Israelites, we're talking anywhere from the 13 to the 1700s medieval period, right? Israelite travelers, Eldad the Danite and Benjamin of Tudela, will know that they endeavored to find the lost 10 tribes without success because they didn't know who they were. That's the whole problem in the New Testament, is you had people who didn't know who they were, and they were of the 10 tribes, but for some reason you did have, for obvious reasons, for the Lord's inspiration, Holy Spirit, the southern kingdom was somewhat kept a lineage and line going, but the 10 tribes did not. We don't see that they did that, and we see it today. We see how the Most High raised up the tribes of Judah first, where in the United States of America, and now this gospel is going all throughout the world. Okay, so it says here, they endeavored to find the 10 tribes without success. Now Cromwell, in some texts, is actually a melanated person too. Now he may have been a tear, or he may have been, he could have been an Israelite who was just a wicked devil, okay, a wicked so-called black devil. In Cromwell's time, the learned Rabbi Manasseh ben Yisrael was yet another who endeavored to trace the still lost 10 tribes, and recorded his view that Columbus had discovered them in the North American Indians. Within recent years, 1948 writers have been unanimous in their testimony that the 10 tribes have not yet joined them, which is true. Because, and this is how you know they're going back to the land. It's not fulfillment of prophecy, because it was the Rothschild family that funded and got them into the land. And that's in a video. I'll link that here in this video, because he's dead now. He has been, that Rothschild guy has been liquidated. All right. He's in the spirit world right now. Okay, so it goes on to read, within the recent years, the Jewish writers have been unanimous in their testimony that the 10 tribes have not yet joined them, even though they're saying the Ethiopians are the tribe of Dan, but they don't know. The Ethiopians are going to be destroyed too. All right. The series of articles by Neubauer in the Jewish Quarterly Review in 1888 is a learned exposition of Jewish attempts down through the ages to find the lost tribes. This again is that crafty counsel of this European people trying to find out who the 12 tribes are, but the Most High is keeping them hidden. All right, it's just that simple. Now he's raised the tribes of tents of Judah first, and we are out here on these highways, and we may not be all the tribe of Judah, but it said the tents of Judah, under the tents of Judah. So there's some Judites here in this land, and they've risen up, and they're out here preaching on these highways and byways, okay? And as well, probably some of the other tribes as well. All of the 12 tribes over here in the United States of America. All of them over here. And we're all around the world as well. Okay, so back to the article, back to the book. So complete has been their disappearance from the pages of history that Neubauer concludes that they are to be found, quote, nowhere, and he abandons the attempt to discover them. And he should, because the Lord is keeping it secret. And you can't find out his secrets because he reveals his secrets to the prophets. He does not reveal his secrets to the Gentiles. He'll give them a bad dream. He'll send them an evil spirit to torment them. That's what he'll do. He'll let them know who the Israelites are, like he did Balaam, like he did Balaam. When the king Balak of the Midianites wanted him to curse Israel, he let Balaam know who the Israelites really were, and gave him a prophecy of the future as well. Historically, then, we have certain very clear outlines concerning the Israelitish origins of the Jewish nation. Now, you see how the Ish and the Ish connect. They're trying to connect them to that. There's no Israelitish. You're an Israelite, and that's it. You're not like an Israelite, but you can try to be like a Jew when you say Jewish. You're like a Jew. That's what it means, okay? Of that particular nation, 1948 nation. Now, understand this, because this is getting on my nerves. What? There is no Israelitish origins to the fake Gentile authorized, but the Lord forbidden land transplantation of the European Jewish. You see that? The Gentiles authorized that. The Lord did not. Okay, back to the text. It was composed of parts of the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and the house of David. Hey, going back to that again. Okay, in the house of David. Okay, that's what it should be. Despite the Jews' admission that they do not represent the 10 tribes, that's interesting to say that, because we don't hear that from the 1948ers. They say they do. This man, I guess in 1949 they were not saying that, but they sure as hell are saying it. It's going all around the world today. Okay, so it says here, 1949, despite the Jews' admission that they do not represent the 10 tribes. Why? Because they're Esau-Edom. Okay, here it is. This is what a great discovery in this book on page 16. A great discovery that back then in 1949, they were not saying that they were part of the 10 tribes. Okay, they did not represent them. It's interesting. So, because the reason why I'm making this point is, yes, you would say they're saying they're the Jews, right? They're from the tribe of Judah, but they say they're from Levi. So that is part of the other tribes. They're now 10. Did that exclude the Levites? Yes and no, because you had the Levites that did come down, but we did have there obviously were Levites that probably went off as well, just like the rest of the tribes did. Okay. He goes on to read. It must be allowed that what appears to be an almost insignificant remnant, they're very significant, all right, remnant of 10 tribed Israelites, you see, because you can't call them Jewish. You can't call them Jewish. This is very, very, very good. Had either returned to Palestine or had left in the land from earlier days. In the New Testament, we read of Anna the prophetess. This is a good point. Of the tribe of Asher, so she was in the land during the time of Yahawashi, who rejoiced in the coming of the anointed. Okay, and you also had an Israelite man as well who said, now he can go ahead and die. Now he's seen the salvation of Israel. Now they're going to read in the book. Any such remnants, however, have never been recognized by the Jewish authorities. They are not an authority. Okay, they are not an authority. They are authority to those whom subject themselves to their authority, which none of the Israelites out in the highways and byways are doing that. We speak against them. We are not subject to them. We don't recognize any authority by them. We are the authority over them. They can never be the authority over us. All right. So it says, as any such remnants, however, have never been recognized by the Jewish authorities as of anything more than the smallest numbers, insufficient to be considered representative of a tribal return, which is reason why you have they're taking on the sprinkling of color with the Ethiopians. Okay, so before we get to the letter, we got to understand this and ask this question: who put the Gentile Jewish in authority to report, discern, or whatever anything relating to the Holy Bible or the chosen people of the Lord? Who did that? They put themselves in that position. We did not. The Lord allowed it, and the Lord is undoing it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and read the letter. We're going to take a look at this letter. So, Office of the Rabbi, Mulberry Street, Commercial Road East, from London, dated November 18, 1918, and it has the Hebrew year of 5679. Dear Sir, in reply to your letter of the 15th instant, I am desired by the Chief Rabbi to state: 1. The people known at present as Jews are descendants of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, with a certain number of descendants of the tribe of Levi. This is the Jewish now. This is the European insertion. 2. As far as is known, there is not any further admixture of other tribes, because they're not looking for them. Paragraph 3. The 10 tribes have been absorbed among the nations of the world, which is true. See 2 Kings chapter 17, more especially verses 22 and 23. Paragraph 4. We look forward to the gathering of all 12 tribes at some future day. See Isaiah chapter 27, verses 11 and 12, and Ezekiel chapter 37, 15. Now, with the rabbi's cordial greetings, I am, dear sir, faithfully yours, the secretary, Captain Merton Smith. Now, I tried to look at that Merton Smith. There's a couple of Merton Smiths out there. Not very clear of who this is. There's a Merton Smith that was later a colonel who was captured and who committed suicide while in captivity. Not sure if it's the same man or not. Doesn't really matter. All right, so this is going to conclude the reading of chapter 1. And chapter 2, I hope it's going to be a little bit more enlightening. We got some nuggets out of chapter 1, and prayerfully we'll get some more in this reading. We find out what we need. We're going to find out in this short study of Esau-Edom in Jewry. We're going to find out that the Esau, is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it, which followed, by C.F. Parker in 1949, a historical research. I leave you in the most capable hands of the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi.